Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 799.
From the sleepy suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio, there are assembled the world's two greatest podcast hosts, created from the cosmic legends of the universe. Sean Whalen.
Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast. I'm a big fan of variant colors. My love for Batman is that stuff. Let's talk some comics.
And Jim Segulin.
How's it going, eh? You know me and Superman. I'm really loving what they're doing. Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast.
Their mission, to discuss DC Comics in books, movies, and television several times a month in 1 to 3 hour episodes. And to serve all mankind.
Outstanding.
Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Jim, the spectacular sensei of the Whatnot Segulin.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we are continuing our coverage of DC KO. We're going to be doing Titans number 30, DC KO Harley Quinn versus Zatanna, and The Flash number 28. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what's going on over at DCBService.com?
We have a new history of the DC Universe, the Dakota Incident, issue 1, 38% off, only $371. We have a really cool looking limited series, Sirens, Love Hurts, issue 1 of 4, 48% off, only $311. And over on Vertigo, we've got a title that caught my attention. It's called End of Life, issue number 1. It's a 48% off, only $207. It's, again, Vertigo title, and it's about a hitman who kind of makes a little mistake, goes after the wrong guy. And now he's got the international cabal of assassins after him. So I was like, oh, that should be kind of a cool read. So thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, I just added another book to my wish list. It's The Warlord by Mike Grell, Omnibus Hardcover Volume 1. But this is what they did with the Neil Adams stuff. It's remastered and collected in color like never before. So this is remastered work. If you are not familiar with Mike Grell's work, do yourself a favor. This collects the first issue special, number 8, and The Warlord 1 through 36, with a brand new introduction and painted wraparound cover by Mike Grell. This is 736 pages. Full color hardcover, remastered. It's $100 regularly. It's 48% off, only $52. That's a lot of content for $52. I am so in on this. I'm finding this is becoming my thing with In-Stock Trades. I just added this to my wish list so I didn't forget about it. You should see the wish list I have of books that I want to get. I'm doing a regular monthly order as well. And there's things that I miss along the way. Either, I had already had so much in my stack at that month I didn't grab it, or I missed this one. This would have been a must grab. So that's the nice part about doing these ads. Every so often I'll come across something that I really wanted and I didn't know was a thing. This is one of those, so I'm grabbing this one. Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk DCKO.
You filthy criminals.
Our next discussion is going to be of Titans number 30, Cyborg versus Swamp Thing. John Layman is the writer, Pete Woods on art and colors, Bruno Abdias on inks, Wes Abbott on letters, Pete Woods on the main cover, Brad Walker and Marcelo Miolo, Mark Spears, Edwin Gallman, George Cambadias on the variant covers, Marquise Draper is the editor, Brittany Holzer is the senior editor, Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. I know there was name butchery there, and I totally apologize because this was the fight that I didn't know that I wanted. And one of the things that I really loved about this one was, and I've got to say this is going to be pretty consistent with the books that we're talking about. We got a lot of strong character moments in these fights, where we saw characters reacting based on their nature. We got to know a little bit about their own, not just, I don't want to say totally insecurities, because it makes it sound like everybody was all about their insecurities. It wasn't that. It was insecurities. It was morals. It was what drives and motivates them. It's also kind of like this existential thing of, can I win this? And if I could, what would I do with it? If I can't, what should I do? And so we got 3 interesting books to talk about here. And I think this is a great one to start off with, because on paper, Swamp Thing and Cyborg couldn't be more different. But there was so much here where they were learning to understand each other and react to each other. This really should be, no pun intended, Cyborg out of his element. Yeah, because of the way that Swamp Thing is. I loved how round 1 started with this one, just because of the fact that this issue kicked off right from the get-go, with round 1 kicking right off and these two starting to fight, which is kind of unique with these. There was no like prelude. It was just, bam, we're dropping you right into the fight.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's fight time, yeah. No, and again, throughout this series, we've been saying how much we're loving how Vic's being written, and continuing on to that same mindset, where this, again, is another brilliant Cyborg story. Now I love Swamp Thing in it, so I don't want to sound like I'm knocking him, but for me, Cyborg, really, throughout this series, I'm loving how they're playing, how they're writing, and, you're showing us who Vic Stone is. And I love that. That's something that, again, I always talk about my dun-da-da moments. I also have booyah moments, and there's a couple really cool moments in here that we got to see how cool Cyborg is.
Yeah, and that's one of the nice things about the character, is he really is absolutely a super cool character, and so much history there. I loved seeing the fact that he won round 1 right out of the get-go. Yeah. So it's from a confidence builder. It's like, in short order, really in 2 pages, he took out Swamp Thing. Which I didn't expect, because, you're going off the power levels of Swamp Thing. I expected Swamp Thing to be the one that kind of wiped the floor with him at first, and Vic had to figure out the hows. It didn't go that way first round.
Yeah.
Which was really interesting. And knowing that we have to go to round 2, where now all of a sudden you're dealing with the form, choosing the form, and seeing the various versions of yourself. I actually love that. I geeked out because so many, if not all of them, the versions of Cyborg I've read. So just seeing over the years the reasons why there were different variations of him, even that gold-colored version of him that was in there, I'm like, oh, I remember that, deep cut. I remember the reboot. I remember that. Because you see the new 52 version, all the kinds of things that they tried there. I loved seeing all of them brought into this.
Well, and there's the TV show version in there.
Yes.
Zoom in, I saw, there's the cool, that's neat. They pulled everything. And I love how he even explained it in his head, where he's like, even versions I've thought of, but didn't get a chance to make.
Yeah.
So there's every possibility out there that you could go with, and I was like, like you, I loved that with this one, we were getting the running commentary from Vic.
Yes.
And, just even him explaining it. And I was laughing my head off. He's like, I figure if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm like, oh, Vic, you're going to get your ass handed to you. Just because, he went so smoothly the first round, I knew the second round, this was a mistake. Just because. And I love the fact that once you've flipped the page, you see, oh, that's a much different version of Swamp Thing. And I love the fact that this round 2 Swamp Thing was playing off of Vic, playing off of his egos, playing off of, his humanity, but also playing off of the fact that, he used that first round to see what Vic has at him. Really cool strategy on Swamp Thing's part there.
The dangerous part, though, is you're giving up one of your rounds, which is making the next 2 critical for you.
Yeah.
Swamp Thing had no wiggle room from that. I did like, this is an interesting point. It's a small detail, but I thought this was smart. So, We are both doing what we have to do, right, Levi? Or is it Alec Holland? Which Swamp Thing am I dealing with? I loved that Swamp. I'm convinced it's Levi, but I love that Swamp Thing didn't answer that question.
Yeah.
I am Swamp Thing. That is all you need to know, which is smart. Why would you give information in this fight, considering it's a fight to the death and it is a fight for so much? Why would you give that information? That was brilliant. I just thought it was a small detail. And kind of, you could argue, well, maybe that's a little throwaway thing. I don't think so. I think that was just great. It was very Swamp Thing in its presentation, but also smart in the kind of fight that you're having here. I thought there was really good writing.
Oh, yeah. And I agree with you. I think it's Levi. I don't think it's Alec.
I do too. But but I love that. I'm not going to, if you're questioning it, let's keep you.
Well, again, it's brilliant mind games.
Yes.
This, Swamp Thing came for round 2 ready to fight. And this was a good, again, I liked, what he was doing, why he was doing it. It wasn't just, mind games for mind games. Oh, no. He was using this to get an edge on Vic.
Yes.
And it worked. It worked nicely, too. Because he completely got in his head. He really, even Vic makes the joke about using his head, literal in this case. I loved how, again, Swamp Thing was prepared for round 2, and Vic was not, and he got owned in round 2. And it's one of those things where I love when you're seeing a fighter or combatant recognize, okay, I messed up. Because part of when you're in like a combat situation like this, especially when you got rounds, you got to, okay, I lost that round. I got to go on to round 3. What did I learn? It's you learn more from you learn more from your losses than you do from your win. And that's what happened with Vic on this one. Swamp Thing learned what Vic's weaknesses were, exploited them to take round 2. Vic learned, okay, here's where I did wrong, so he got ready for round 3.
And he got digested.
Yeah, digested. Yeah, that's a pretty nasty way to go.
The interlude was way cool.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't just say the interlude here. I liked that throughout the issue, we got more than one touch point on what was going on with the rest of the Titans. And then that's a continuing story. It's something I'm enjoying in the Superman storytelling with this too, is that, we're getting the Prime and Lois storyline. I like in this one that we're finding out what's going on, not only with the current Titans, but some of their friends who are supporting them, like John. I really like John with this team. Like, I'm enjoying seeing his exploration in the team.
Yeah. And it's funny. I love that they did keep some people back.
Yeah.
For the stragglers, for all those people like, I'm not doing this. All the people who are like, this is bull, this is fake, and they're like, oh, crap, help, And so the heroes did stay back. Again, it shows why I could not be a hero in this universe, because I would have been one of the ones who are like, see ya.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would like, if you choose to stay, that's on you. I'm not staying for you. But again, these are true heroes, so they're not going to do that. And I liked seeing that, and especially like the fact that it was John, who was leading the holding the team to stay back, because again, he is Superman. He's not Superboy. He's Superman. So he does have the power levels to be there, to be the one to stay. But the one that did throw me, was his partner. That I was like, because I love when John's like, yeah, we're booming back. What do you mean we? And you see who it is, and it's it's Roy's daughter, and I'm like, oh man, this is not going to go well. Roy is not going to be happy.
Did you read Cheshire and Cheetah, Rob, the Justice League? That was really, really good. I one of the things that I really appreciate here, and they've done this throughout multiple issues of this, there have been character interactions that have led to the need for an editor's note. Great editor's note there. And if you haven't read that miniseries, really good.
Yeah, it's a really good theory.
So it's nice if you're looking for more on what's been going on with Roy's daughter, and it's a cool little adventure romp, and actually has some impact. So it's something well worth seeking out. I love this relationship because for a while there, it looked like we may never get to see these two together again. Yeah. So I was really glad to see her gradual reintroduction. It seems like ages ago now that we got that tease that she was still alive.
Yeah.
And to kind of now have it established that this has been a thing, it kind of blows my mind just how much time has flown quickly with that.
Yeah. Well, I still remember when she first died.
Me too.
How just the internet exploded and hated it. And I was like, and I think you and I talked about how it was just it was an actual, we both got true emotional reaction seeing this character die.
Uh-huh.
When you can have a fictional character die and has a true emotional reaction, that's a powerful story.
Yeah.
And I know we both were like, we want her back, but we wanted an equally powerful story. We don't want it just to be a throwaway, bring her back. And they've done a great job with bringing her back and making it part of multiple story arcs as to, her return and her, and I loved like the moment when Roy and her got together and she's like, and he's just like, and he remembered her. He was like, I remember your first costume and this, and it was just that emotional moment when he was just talking to her. I was just like, every time I see these two together, I always go back, all those stuff play through my head. I love this character story arc, and I'm so glad that, they're continuing on with telling us good stories with her.
What's interesting in the final round was this particular suit that Cyborg chooses.
Yeah.
And I love how it looks like at first Swamp Thing's splitting off into multiple pieces. He's going to overwhelm Roy. I'm sorry. He's going to overwhelm Vic. And then we get to see that this is the suit that Vic has that taps into everything. It makes him basically the Titans.
Yeah.
Or, a version of the Titans. He's able to access a lot of their power sets, everything that, counts from being a part of that team. And I loved seeing every bit of that, where it's a little bit of Beast Boy, it's a little bit of Nightwing, it's a little bit of Starfire, and, the shadow magic and all those kind of pieces. It was really, really cool to see that. Titans Together being, this is his Titans Together suit. And I just loved that leaning into those around him got him to a point where he and Swamp Thing just started talking.
Yeah.
That really worked for me. It was like all along Swamp Thing was testing him to gauge his readiness for this and to give him some advice. Swamp Thing took one for the team there.
Yeah.
And this is interesting. I guess I kept thinking all along that all of these were going to be straight up battles with someone winning and someone losing. In this case, this was a conscious choice by Swamp Thing to prepare Vic to continue on and to take one for the team here because he felt it was what's best for the greater good, which fits Swamp Thing, right?
Yeah.
I loved every bit of this piece and what was going on here. It was really cool.
Be honest with you, and this was, a realization by Swamp Thing that Vic's got a shot at winning this.
Yeah.
But Vic needs that push. He needs that, that little extra oomph, to get him over the hump. And that's what Swamp Thing was doing here. And that's part of the reason, part of me thinks it's Levi, because that seems more like his kind of mindset and his philosophy.
Oh, Alec would do it too.
You think? Okay. See,
here's the thing. I think the presentation would be different. This is where it's great writing. It's great understanding the character. It's something I'm disagreeing with you. I'm really not. I think your reasoning why you think it's Levi is absolutely valid. I think the presentation, the personality, which is, it's still Swamp Thing, but, so there's always like an ethereal part to it and all that kind of thing that's going on. But, I just really liked this whole presentation. And I think what I liked about it is, so the strategy here isn't just winning battles. The strategy here is who is going to ultimately win at the end. And who do you want to win at the end because of what you believe they will do.
Right.
You want somebody that can survive till the end and win, who is perhaps going to be good for the greater good. Vic is a guy I wouldn't mind have that power. If you're looking at strategy wise, there's a lot of people on the playing field. I would not want to have that power.
Yeah.
we're going to talk about a character actually in the last book that we're talking about that I love, that I would not want to have that power. But I really love the fact that I'm looking at Vic right now and going, you know what? If I'm backing somebody, there's a few horses that I would back in this race because of what I think they would do if they had that power of King Omega. But I don't know. Vic is certainly on the short list because I just think he has very strong character, and I think he would put a universe back together again that would be one that I would want to live in.
Yes. The uncorruptibility of Vic.
Yes.
You know, he now everybody is corruptible, so you can't say 100%, but the strength of personal character that he has, it's not going to be an easy corruption. Just like with Superman. You know, the strength of character, Clark's strength of character is he's not easily corruptible. So those are two people that, at the top of my list of who I would want to have this power.
Well, they also have something else that's a quality I think is pretty important. Their humanity. And I know it's a weird thing to say about Clark, but with the way that he was raised by Ma and Pa Kent and stuff like that, Superman is one. It's not the perfection of both that you want. You also want their ability to be humble, their ability to learn. Vic learned a lot in this because of the fact that Vic is able to self-evaluate and question himself. There's characters in this that think their thinking is perfect.
Right.
That's a dangerous person to be shaping a universe. You need people to question themselves and see their flaws and question their own thinking. And Vic would question his morality in this one. I love it. I love that. I love the choice, and I get why Swamp Thing did it. I think it's a brilliant choice. So back at the Watchtower interlude, we get to go back to Booster side again, and we get to see the aftermath of the World Forger battle, and leading to Gorilla Grodd being his next opponent. And I don't know why I totally forgot that Gorilla Grodd was a factor in this one.
Yeah.
But what a great choice and great place to have Gorilla Grodd in.
Oh, God, yeah. Again, every time we go back to the Watchtower interludes, I'm like, yes, here we go. You see, Booster side getting ready to turn it in. Not while Grodd has the power to stop you. Like, yeah, Grodd. How many times have we ever gotten to cheer for Gorilla Grodd?
Yeah.
Here's one where we are. I love that. That's something I'm loving about this, where there's little things like that just... You never thought you'd cheer for Grodd to be the hero of the story, and he is right here.
So then this is the interlude that I was talking about at the end, because I really loved seeing something else going on with the team. They're trying to save everybody, and they're making their own moves right now to try and assist with what's going on. And I love that what we're seeing is Darkseid's minions, including Grail, are, the daughter of Darkseid. They're trying to thwart what the heroes are doing. They're trying to cheat Darkseid's ultimate plan by getting everybody off the planet and things like that. Grail has very different ideas about that. She's a character who I thought her creation was just brilliant, and we haven't seen a ton of her. So I'm excited to see her again and see her used in this. I'm hoping we get some really solid fights and content involving her, because I think she's an intriguing character. Strangely, it's not just when she fights, especially when she talks. I think getting into the head of who Grail is, and I think Layman can do a real good Grail story. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking forward to round 2 of Grail versus Donna Troy.
Yes.
Because she sucker punched her, Donna's not out of the fight. So that's going to be a good battle there. And if the editor's notes of John and Leanna's adventures continue in DCKO, the kids are all fight special.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I got to make sure I get that one and read that one, and that's something I'm very grateful that we're getting these editor notes,
Yeah, knowing what to follow along the way as this thing is going to keep going on. Our next issue is DCKO Harley Quinn versus Zatanna. Leah Williams is the writer, Marika Andolfo on art, Romulo Farado Jr. on colors, Steve Wands on letters, Jorge Corona and Sarah Stern on the main cover, Jamal Campbell, Frank Cho, Sabine Rich, David Nakayama, and Mirka Andolfo on the variant covers. Marquise Draper is the editor. Paul Kaminsky is the group editor. Harley Quinn created by Paul Dini and Bruce Timm. Apologies for any name butchery there. This is one of those issues that stands out to me at really leaning heavily into who these characters are. This week, the 3 issues that we're talking about really have some very unique storytelling here. I think I got myself in the mindset, as I mentioned before we started talking about the last one, where these were going to be really cool, brave and the bold kind of battles where it's the hero kind of fighting the hero or the hero fighting villains or a villain fighting villain. And we're going to get to see, sure, great character in there, but it's going to lead to these 2 or 3 round fights, depending on how it is, that, clearly define the winner and move us on. I didn't expect what we got here because this was similar to what we got with Swamp Thing, but yet so different at the same time. We got Zatanna, who by her nature is not a physical combatant. That's not to say that she can't defend herself. She's, learned how to defend herself, but she's not that person. This leans very heavily into the fact that Zatanna's not ruthless. She's not engineered or geared to be ruthless. She hasn't trained herself to be ruthless. And I love everything about Zatanna. Like, I really love the character. I've always loved the character going back to really the 70s when I saw the crossovers and we got a chance to see her magic, use for the first time. I got to see her magic use for the first time. And she was another one of those, like, who is this? So different than the characters I was seeing on Super Friends. You know what I mean? So I got interested in a lot of those DC Justice League characters that kind of had different sorts of powers and things like that. I love where this issue goes because we also get to see the continued evolution of Harley Quinn. I feel like this is the Harley that we've seen in the comics. I love that, talk about a bait and switch and a swerve with Harley. You get kind of the idea that Harley is ruthlessly trying to solve this until we get more of her internal dialogue and we're like, she knows she can't win this.
Yeah.
Like, in the end, she knows it. And we get to see Dr. Quinzel, I think, in this quite a bit. And I loved seeing the psychology of Harley in this with all of her craziness. I dig the character quite a bit. Did you read the holiday special? The Ma Hunkel one?
Yes.
So they had a really good Harley and Ivy story in that one that I thought was just a fun little holiday romp. But I feel like part of the Harley that we get in there is this Harley right here. So they're doing a real good job with this chaotic character at keeping some form of like continuity of who Harley Quinn is, even though we've got different writers who are tackling this character for different reasons. And I really loved everything about this issue. When I walked in, I'm going to say I wasn't as interested in this one originally. I thought, this will be kind of a fun little Harley and Zatanna issue. This is becoming one of my favorite issues just because of what a surprise it was in its character-driven storytelling in this one. This is really well done. It's a sleeper hit issue for me because I was like, okay, I'll read that one. It'll be kind of fun. I did not expect to enjoy like multiple read-throughs of this. I enjoyed it more and more because I think this is just very well handled for character.
And I want to echo 2 things you just said. One, multiple read-throughs. Because, every time I've read it, I enjoy it more. So if you've only read this issue once, you're like, oh, okay, read it a second time. Yeah. Do yourself a favor because, everything you said, especially the Harley stuff, I really loved when you start rereading it that second time, you really start seeing Dr. Quinzel is in there.
Yes.
And I love when we get those moments when you get Harley and the Doc working together.
Mm-hmm.
And they are 2 separate people.
Yes.
Harley is a definition of split personality disorder. 100%. There's Harley Quinn and there's Dr. Quinzel. Sometimes they're on the same page. Sometimes they're on opposite pages. But I do love when we get those moments when she's shifting back and forth, and we see times when Harley is saying Quinzel's words, and I do love those kind of moments. And we got a lot of that going on in this issue. But the one thing that did throw me, and I will admit, when I first read it, was how timid initially Zatanna was in the fight. Because my exposure is usually with her dealing with Constantine. And that's what I've seen a lot of the really cool Zatanna stories was with her and Constantine. And when she deals with Constantine, she's dealing with hell, literally. She's dealing with a jerk, literally, and she's dealing with some nasty double dealings. And you see Zatanna get nasty. So this opening when she's all friendly and, oh, hey, let's agree to have fair fight. I'm like, that's not the Zatanna I know. Now, by the end of this issue, we get the Zatanna I'm used to, where we get her embracing the dark side and knuckling it up, and I loved how we get to that point. So I got to admit, this opening sequence, kind of did throw me initially, but it was Harley for the save because she cracks her in the throat so she can't talk. I was like, yes, that's Harley right there. I love that.
Well, it was such great strategy because she knows she's outmatched.
Yeah.
If I'm going against Magic, I'm not going to win. She's going to take me out. This is skewed so bad against me. And I really loved that part. And there's a part of her where you sit there and go, okay, it's easy to dismiss sometimes her and the Joker as being insane. And I'm lumping them together on purpose just because of the fact that you take these characters that are typically chaotic and you forget that there is elements of brilliance in there. And such a small way of handling the situation, she took advantage of surprise, went for the jugular, literally, and it allowed her to win the first round. And it was just really, really a good fight. I figured for sure that was going to then lead to 2 rounds where Zatanna takes her down.
Yeah.
But which kind of happens, but I love how we got there instead. This is not the journey I was expecting, and I loved it so much more because of the fact that she looks at Zatanna ultimately, and I'm jumping to some of the end game of it because we can talk about how we got there, but I love that she ultimately looks like Zatanna as a friend. She recognizes, if I'm outclassed here, how am I going to make it to the end? She recognizes the big picture here where she may be able to survive this fight. She may be able to get through it. She's not going farther.
Yeah.
And I really liked Harley recognizing the fact that for the greater good, this is my friend. She is not going to get there unless somebody coaches her. I'm going to coach her. I'm going to make it so Zatanna stands a very real chance of winning this thing. And I loved that. It's so like Harley is a good guy, or whatever you want to call her now in that, because I love her and the Ivy's relationship. I don't know. It's very hard to label some of those characters because it's hard to label Ivy right now too. But I love these characters that are shades of gray in the Gotham universe. And Harley fits that category. And she's so... we've mentioned on the show before, I was kind of like, oh, Harley Quinn's fine. I always enjoyed her on the animated series. I love that they brought her in the comics, but I'm not one that goes to Harley Quinn is my go-to character by any stretch. They have made her incredibly interesting. This Harley Quinn, give me more. I want more of this. This was such a good issue for somebody who's kind of like I've been always lukewarm on Harley Quinn. I like the character. Some great writers have tackled the character, have gotten me interested in following, but it's never been my go-to.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, this did a great job of letting people see who Harley's about and what she's about.
Yeah.
So if you're not a Harley reader, but you're picking up the KO to read the event, they just did a good spotlight on Harley in this.
Sure they did.
And it really showed, they showed the chaos side of her. Mm-hmm. They showed the fighting, but they also showed the intelligence. They also showed that there is, in her heart and soul, there is a good person there. Even if, it's like, the Agent of Chaos is a great description of her, but it's, using Dungeons and Dragons terms, she's chaotic good.
Yes.
Chaotic evil, so she's chaotic good in this. And I do love the fact that Harley is teaching Zatanna a lesson, throat punch, so she can't speak. And then I love it as she's like, hey, how's the throat feeling? Ooh, trick question. Just wanted to see if you could talk,
So good.
Again, great strategy and a great KO. Knocks the wind out of her. That comes down with the flying elbow, or the flying club, for the first KO. I loved how this played out. I love the fact that, again, Zatanna needed to get her butt kicked. We all need to get our butt kicked every so often to help get us, on the right page, especially in this tournament. Zatanna needed to get her eye in the tiger. She needed to get her killer instinct. This right here was a great way for her to get it.
The costume changed for Harley Quinn, and she's talking about the whole multiversal piece. I do love that during this, she talks to us. She's doing the Deadpool thing.
Yeah.
I love that this is Marvel's Deadpool. DC's Deadpool. I'm sorry. I love that we've got that character. I like that they didn't overdo it, but they did it. And with the little wink and stuff like that. And it just kind of works for me, particularly with her particular brand of crazy. It's something I really do like about Deadpool.
Yeah.
When it's done in the right ways. And I like that Zatanna acknowledges the fact, who are you talking to? It was a good little sequence of events and something I enjoyed. The round 2 fight was great because that's where we got to see more of this Harley Quinn who is trying to train her. And I caught it during the start of that one where I'm like, wait a minute, why isn't she just going after Zatanna? She is trying to train her. I loved this. Everything about this was so cool. And I'd hope I would be in the fight if I recognized that, like, I was outclassed and I'm standing across from somebody that I believe in. I'm sitting there like, ooh, would I be with it enough? Would I have enough of that ethics to be able to recognize that I'm not the one? She could be, though.
Yeah.
Would I put that person first and be able to do that? And I love that moral question as you're going through it. That's what makes the stories like this compelling, is when you're going, this is not a surface level story. It could be. This could be very, very simple. We're doing, the fighting video game, and how would my person fare? And do as we as readers agree that this person should have won over that person. We're getting some of that, and that's great, but this is far more compelling to me when you're hitting these and we're dealing with ethical questions. Could I do that? Could I be with it enough to do that? Would I be able to set my own? We all have an ego, right? And it's to varying degrees. If you don't, there's something wrong with you. You got to have some form of thing where you believe in yourself, right? And when you take a look at the different levels of your ego, would your ego let you be able to set it aside and go, she's the one? I love that.
Yeah.
That question is so good and so well done. Harley does that, which shows where she's at. And I'm like, Harley Quinn is the one to do this. And it's so believable to the character, right? Great writing. I'm sitting here like, nothing feels out of character for Harley. Everything feels right here. She's still her particular brand of crazy. But I said it earlier, Dr. Quinzel rears her head throughout all of this. And I loved seeing that character really in prominence in this whole piece. I feel like some of this is due to the relationship with Ivy. We've seen the character continue to evolve. Her getting past some, as much as you can, past some of her issues with Joker. I think those are lifelong scars that are never going to fully go away. But man, and that's why I was referencing the Ma Hunkel Christmas special, because it deals with some of that, right?
Yeah.
And I love how I feel like I could read that story, and this is the character that's gone through that. And where she ended in that story is also the character that can be sitting here right now going, I'm in kind of a better place now. Let's think about this a little bit. And wow, is it cool to read Harley this way and be able to read multiple writers' stories and somehow feel like these are all connecting.
Oh, God, yeah. And one of the things I digged about this round 2 fight was, and again, it's different than everybody else's fights.
Yes.
they're not giving us the same fight, just, same story, just two different people. They're personalizing it. These two are having some really cool dialogue as well as some really neat hand-to-hand fighting going on. Basically Harley seeing, can Z get down and dirty? Can she scrap? I love when Harley rips off the ear and she heals. You go, see, you can heal yourself. What kind of chance do I have? And we get a bare knuckle brawl between these two. And and Z gets it. And I love how Harley, when Z finally starts throwing some haymakers, she's like, now you're getting it. Now you're starting to understand what you need to do to win this tournament. And we get that first KO from just a solid right cross with pure rage backing it. Yeah. I loved, again, seeing Harley push her.
Yeah.
And that was just absolutely brilliant storytelling.
Yeah. I would love to see who the showrunner is or showrunners are behind the scenes for DCKO.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if that's editorial that's doing that, or if it's writers that are doing that, or what form of creator, who in the creative team, or if it's some combination. Like there's a DCKO summit, but they have got to. You mentioned something earlier about how the fact that these fights are looking and feeling different, and I feel that's somebody behind the scenes has got to be saying, you know what, they're doing this over there. What else you got? I'm wondering what that looks like, because when she was stabbing her in the leg and then Harley came and went back and did the same thing, it's part of, again, the Mr. Miyagi style training that's going on at the moment. And I was loving every bit of it. You're right. The one punch KO, there was multiple punches, but it was the one where she finally let loose, which was the ruthlessness that Harley's trying to tap into. She's starting to bring to light. I love in this last round, Harley's kind of like, let's change it up a little bit. What if I borrow some of the magic? Technically not against the rules, right?
Choose your form. She chose the form. I choose this one.
Yeah.
I thought that was, again, brilliant usage of Harley there. And it was funny because with all the previous fights, they were in two completely different areas. Mm-hmm. They couldn't see what the others are choosing. With this one, they'd been right there side by side.
Right.
On the other side of the walls, and they've had the dialogue going on, so Harley can reach. And I love the fact that technically not against the rules. I don't see any, the heart doesn't stop it. So the heart's like, yeah, go for it. And Z never changes form. That's something interesting. Z always stays who she is.
Yeah.
And I thought that, again, was a neat little, tie on who she is. And just, again, speaking to who Zatanna is, she's been through a lot, with all the stuff that's happened to her in her life, with her father, again, with Constantine's a huge factor in her life. I love the fact that she's standing tall as who she is. Now, when it comes to people selecting, to change the universe, yeah, I'd be okay if Z won this. Do I think she has a chance? No. I don't think she has a shot in heck to win this thing. I would be shocked if they gave it to her. And not because of anything against her. I just don't think she's got that fire that she needs. And we see in this final round where she starts channeling that anger, she starts channeling that darkness, but we also see she's not comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And if you're not completely comfortable with that, you're not going to be able to channel it when you need it. And I think that's what's going to be Z's downfall. Now, again, I love this final round. I love this final fight because we really do see that this is where we really see that Harley this whole time has been training her friend to get her ready for the next round. Harley recognizes she can't win this. She has no chance, but her friend does. So I'm going to give her friend that little edge she needs. And I loved seeing that, again, I love seeing Harley in this. This was a brilliant Harley story. This is a really cool Zatanna story. So I don't want anyone thinking I'm knocking Zatanna in this, but this was a brilliant Harley story.
I agree. What's interesting with these brackets right now is, I guess, there was part of myself that was thinking, why wouldn't this lead to Harley versus the Joker?
Yeah.
So I love that they're swerving me. You know, some things that I thought were kind of obvious are not turning out the way that I thought.
Yes.
And I like the surprises. I still feel like Joker is going to be one of the main players going pretty far in this, just because he's the Joker. But this throws into, like, I love that this throws in for me some questions. Because some of the ones that I wanted to see, like, for example, I'm a Hawkman fan. Sure, I always want to see Hawkman win. But I dig Aquaman. I kind of saw that one coming. You know what I mean? Like, Aquaman was going to win. And I thought that was, like, pretty much so a lock, right? Wonder Woman and Lobo. I knew that Wonder Woman was going to win. I mean, it was just one of those things. I love the stories in both of those, by the way. It sounds like I'm just downplaying them. I am not at all. Love those stories. Great stories. Yeah. This one, I thought this was Harley all the way. And the reason why, Joker. I thought there was a great opportunity to somehow make it so Harley goes up against the Joker. And we were going to see that fight. Same way that we want to see Jason Todd versus the Joker.
Yes.
I wanted to see Harley versus the Joker. I just did. I love that this throws into just, you know, forget what the whole bracket looks like. I love that this is just throwing into, like, people that I thought that was going to get. Did you think Zatanna was going to win? Like, what did you think? Did you think Zatanna was going to win this?
When we first saw this on paper, I was like you. I 100% just thought Harley was going to win so she could go up against the Joker.
Right.
And then as I'm reading this, once we got to, one tie apiece, that's when I started thinking, that's when you really start thinking about, Harley's can't win this. Zatanna's going to win this.
Yeah.
So as I'm reading it, I started changing my mind. So that the ending of it didn't surprise me that Zatanna won. What did really surprise me is how much of this was Harley preparing or getting her friend ready for the next round of fight. I didn't see that coming at all. I saw, maybe, Zatanna, gutting up and fighting and all that stuff. I did not see that this was completely Harley's plan the entire time. From opening round one, Harley was knew she wasn't going to win this. I 100% did not see that. And again, as I said, I initially thought Harley was going to win because I wanted to see Joker versus Harley. So it's, so sitting here, I love how this came down. I love the fact that, she's basically sacrificed herself, kind of like how Swamp Thing did. To get Cyborg ready. This was a great moment. But as I said, how hard this hits Zatanna is what is going to prevent Zatanna from really embracing the darkness and being able to do what she needs to do to win this thing.
Superman has the same problem, though.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. I'm looking at the updated brackets just to get kind of an idea. So because of the winnings so far and what we know, so this is spoilery, but this is everything we've talked about up till this point. I'm not going to spoil anything we don't have on the docket for this episode, people. So if you are following along with us, I'm not spoiling anything for next week that we're going to be talking about. But so far because of the winning, we got Wonder Woman versus Cyborg coming up. We've got Zatanna versus the winner of Joker and Red Hood, which I have not read that. I think it's going to be Joker.
I have not read it either, and I agree with you. I thought from jump that it was going to be Joker.
Right. But
so I'm just saying.
But here's the thing right now.
The issue.
I was kind of thinking that was a lock because I thought Harley was a lock.
Yeah, I know.
And I thought it was going to go Joker, Red Hood, Joker wins, Joker, Harley. And it's not playing out the way that I thought. I like that. I like that a lot. So continuing on with the brackets, we're going to have Superman versus the winner, and we know it, of Guy Gardner and Jay Garrick. We're going to be talking about that as we talk about the next issue, right? So going to be interesting to see that particular fight. And what's unknown to us right now is we know it's Aquaman, but it's Aquaman versus either Lex Luthor or the Demon. Similarly to what I said before with the Joker, I'm pretty darn sure that's going to be Lex Luthor. But I want to see Lex Luthor versus the Demon. But I feel like that one's pretty much a foregone conclusion. That being said, I do like the idea of Lex Luthor versus the Demon quite a bit. So that's one where I feel like I know the end of that journey already. I want to know how we get there.
Yes.
So this has been interesting so far. Really interesting. So back to Zatanna and Harley. I don't know if there's anything else that we want to discuss with that one, other than the fact that I'm with you that I feel that Zatanna doesn't necessarily have that ruthless nature, but I do feel like what we've seen there is we've got a Zatanna now who is motivated to continue on because I've killed now. I've never killed before. And I want to win this because one of the things I'm going to do is bring Harley back. That is a powerful motivator. She's going to feel guilt over the fact that she took down Harley, but she had to, and she's now playing the game. So if your motivation is, if I keep going and I win, I can bring back and undo some of the things that I've done and ultimately make a better world. Is that going to make her ruthless enough to continue on? That it's going to be an interesting story to see here, because, do we get her if she beats Joker or Red Hood? Do we get her then versus Wonder Woman? Or what does that look like? It's good. I love that this has gotten a little less solid. I thought I had this locked. I'm like, I know everybody that's going to go through on this one. I do not, and I love it. I love it.
I'm so glad that I didn't predict, that we didn't predict this.
Yeah.
And we both did. We both were thinking Harley because we're both thinking, Joker. Now, here's the thing: if they swerve us next week and Red Hood beats Joker, I will I will love it because but two, I will be like, whoa. All bets are off now.
Do you think so? Wonder Woman, Cyborg. Do you think there's a chance that Cyborg's beating Wonder Woman on that one?
Okay, again, before this week,
right?
No,
right.
Before this week, I was like Wonder Woman 100%. Now I'm like, I don't know.
It's getting less solid.
Yeah, Vic may be able to pull it off. I don't know.
Yeah.
And just like, again, I was 100% convinced it was going to be Joker beating Red Hood. And I'll be honest with you, I think story-wise, we need that. Just like I think Luthor beating the Demon, story-wise, we need that. But they could swerve us very easily. We could be shocked, when we talk next week.
I like these couple pagers with the interlude, and we get to see Grodd continuing his fight with Darkseid.
Yeah.
And I like that he's like, Booster's still in there. I'm going to go ahead and start using my psychic powers. I love that was the cliffhanger we're left with here, because it is something where it's so often a trope, right? When somebody takes over somebody else, that person's still in there and they're like dying to get out. Yeah. So I love that was left with that. I'm like, I love that I was left with this idea that I want to see him talk to Booster and for Booster to be a lead in this. So much better where the story goes, and we'll talk about it as we talk about this next issue with The Flash. So our next issue is The Flash 28. The writers are Mark Waid and Christopher Cantwell. Art by Vasco Georgiev. Colors by Matt Erms. Buddy Beaudoin on letters. Dan Moore on the main cover. Eric Kante, Serge Acuna, Ethan Young, and Lucas Meyer on the variant covers. Chris Rose is the editor. Paul Kaminsky is the group editor. Apologies for, I know, a ton of name butchery there, as I'm loving me some Flash right now. This series, I'm just digging in general with the storylines that have been going on with it. This one with the story of Wally and Impulse intertwined with this great Jay Garrick, Guy Gardner fight that this was another one where I was pretty sure what the end result was going to be.
Yeah.
But how we got there was so much more interesting to me. And this is an example of just terrific writing where knowing the end result again or feeling that you knew the end result again just doesn't matter when you get this kind of story.
Oh, big time. And again, I've thrown out the analogy multiple times, and I probably will again. The story was called Death of Superman. You knew Superman was going to die, but you still enjoyed the journey. We both, going into this, 100% knew Guy Gardner was going to win.
Yep.
There's no, we love Jay, but there's no chance. But the story that we got getting there was absolutely brilliant. Plus, they still have this whole Wally West story going on. So I'm really happy how, again, they're using their interludes, they're using the main title story still in play into the DC KO event. So this, again, something about this event that I didn't think I'd see, and I'm so happy I'm seeing it, is I'm seeing the regular universe play out inside these fights. So this is, again, really cool moments. I love the fact that we're still getting Wally and we're still getting Impulse, my guy Impulse, who is now completely helpless, no powers, completely unconscious, and down for the count, which, of course, that's Impulse. He ran in without thinking. The world just completely went to, made things even worse. And I love that. But I do love the fact that we do get these moments of Wally being Wally, and trying to figure out what's going on here.
One of the things that I really liked in this is because Bart doesn't have the power that he has normally. I love that even running through time with Wally is having an impact on him. Like his molecules aren't moving at that super fast speed. I love that he's he went into shock because of it, or, was about to go into shock because of it. And Wally has to be very well aware of the fact that, I've got to be very cautious on how I'm handling him right now. He needs rest. He needs care. How do I provide that while at the same time I've got to figure out what has happened to Barry here that is ultimately impacting him? And at the end of the day, why am I still with superpowers? Considering how much I was influenced by Barry. And I love that Wally's asking all the right questions, that we would be asking as a reader, because that makes it fun. Like, we're hanging with him during this process, which makes for a great story.
Well, and I'm glad that Wally's asking that question, because that was something I think you and I both talked about last issue. If Barry doesn't have his powers, why does Wally? And I'm glad that the writing team is saying the exact same thing we're saying. What's going on here? This isn't just something as simple as prevent Barry from being the Flash.
Yeah.
They did something beyond that. And that's what I want to know. What is that beyond? What's that little extra stuff that they thought of that we didn't think of? Because I still have not figured out what happened to Barry. Right. I still don't know that one yet. And I think that is cool that we're still questioning what happened to Barry.
And they've given us so much story here and so much forward movement here, even though we don't know that. Sometimes you do need to stretch out a mystery, for the right reasons with the right kind of storytelling in order to keep the intrigue going. Like, you've got me locked right now. I'm a fish on a hook. So, okay, drag me along on this storyline because I'm just digging everything that you're doing. And with the fact that we got the Jay fight in this one, you're able to do a nice little balance of keeping that moving forward while at the same time focusing us on Jay and Guy. And I love that when they're starting to kick off the initial fight, I love that Jay's trying to do a game of checkers and Guy doesn't know how to play checkers.
That was absolutely brilliant.
It was so great. I love that. And Guy gets mad because he looks silly because he doesn't know how to play one of the most basic games on the planet. But here's the reality. We take it for granted because pretty much everybody's played checkers. But admittedly, at some point in time, we learned how to play. If you never learned how to play and somebody's talking to you like, you idiot, you should already know how to do this, that's only going to tick you off even more. And that's where the insults get thrown. You got to imagine you're emotionally high anyway, right? You know that these fights, however you do this, they matter. And you you're going to die if you don't win.
Yes.
So you're got to be high strung. So when somebody seems like they're making fun of you, whether they are or they're not, I love that, Jay's trying to get around the whole, this is what the heart wants us to do. What if we do it a different way? And it's so morally Jay, where he's like, listen, why don't we just play a good game of checkers? And we go through that way. A better way to handle it. Why do we have to do it the way the heart says? It says we have to have a round. Why don't we have a round? And nobody says we can't do this. I love the logic of the whole thing.
Yep.
And I love what Guy got infuriated. I think everything about this just played out like it should. If you had told me a month ago, yeah, that fight that's coming up between Jay and Guy, it's going to start with checkers, I would have laughed.
Yes.
It started with checkers.
It started with checkers, and it's absolutely brilliant. And I love how this escalated as quickly.
Oh, yes.
Because, again, Guy Gardner, we know has, issues with his own just, his personal issues. He doesn't want people laughing at him. He's got the insecurities. This right here played dramatically into the insecurities about how not knowing how to play checkers, to the point where he smashes, he has the tantrum, knocks the checkerboard across, throws out the insult about, hey, if Wildcat had known when to call it quits, he'd still be alive. That's it.
I agree.
That was the thing that gets Jay, let's fight. And even I love the fact throws the hat, breaks Guy's nose. That for me was awesome. Once again, it goes back to the Batman one punch.
And Guy deserved it.
Yeah.
You hit that far below the belt while using Wildcat in that scenario, especially with how fresh that wound is. Absolutely 1,000% he deserved every bit of that.
Yeah.
So that gave Jay his first win. That whole piece.
No?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. He gave Guy his first win because Guy used his speed. Right. I'm sorry. I was mistaking it as I was looking at the power struggle. I forgot. So Guy got the first win because of the fact that Jay was so emotional.
Yeah. Well, and cuts him in half, literally.
Yeah.
Because Jay's running around him with high speeds, and Guy just cuts him in half.
Yeah, he made a Green Lantern saw. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really cool. I love that Guy leans into for his chosen form, Rage.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that he's leaned into it before, and he knows how powerful it was. We saw him drawn to that power back in the Rage of the Red Lantern stuff and things like that. It was cool to see him when he originally became a Red Lantern and what that looked like and why he was drawn to those pieces while still being a good guy. No pun intended. And, seeing that Red Range thing was really, really cool. Seeing Jay's response to that was really awesome because you want to talk power. Jay's like, I am the Speed Force.
Yeah.
Tapping into that piece. But also because he's tapped into it, he knows he's felt what's going on with the others in his family. The Flash family, what's going on with Wally and things like that. I liked seeing the lens of what's going on with Wally from the fact that Jay tapped into it through the Speed Force.
Yes.
Whether you intended to or not, you're tapping that much into it. You're going to be very in tune what's going on with some of the other speedsters. And I just like that. I thought that was just a really cool, nice personal touch in all of this.
Yeah. And I like the fact that, yes, the Red Lantern is more stronger, but it's not good for defense.
Right.
That was a good little, a good little usage of it. That was cool.
Yeah. Everything about that worked really, really well. I do love when we see some of these others, especially good people like Jay, because Jay Garrick and Alan Scott are two of my favorites from when I was a little kid. And they always felt then like these are the forefathers, like the seasoned forefathers. Seeing him in this one feel what that corruption feels like.
Yeah.
And, I can feel the heart strength surge in me, and it's frightening. I was a good man once. That line just got me.
Yeah.
I was a good man once.
And I right before that, after, Jay cuts Guy in half.
Yeah.
The air is filled with emerald ash.
Yeah.
Guy's still green in his soul, not red. He's a good man. I love that realization by Jay right there that Guy is a good man, and then add on to it, just a young soldier doing his duty like I used to be. I love this connection that Jay is having with Guy.
Yes.
And again, something, in this fight, I never thought we would get these kind of moments with these two having this connection. I was expecting the way the first round went, I was expecting that. And then when, Guy went to red, and we see Jay's Speed Force, like, okay, yeah, this is going to go definitely Jay. So I 100% saw those two playing out. I loved how, again, even though I saw this coming, I still get those extra nuances that I didn't see coming.
The Grodd fight continuing on, where Grodd basically thinks he's got it. Like, I'm going to tap into a booster. I hear you. I love Darkseid's coming back with, no, you hear me, Grodd. See my time. See your fate. Accept my end. I mean, what he throws out there, what Darkseid is, and backlashes. I mean, Grodd's bleeding from the eyes, the nose, the mouth. I mean, the backlash that's going on Grodd with that feedback from that whole thing. And I love that Lex Luthor, we get to see that from Lex's perspective in one book, here in another book. I think that part is just so, I like that they're giving you the note saying, you can also see the other perspective on this one in a different title. I love when books do that. I love, you can overdo that. It's not been overdone in this. I love when they do stuff like this. Really well done. I
am so excited to see this when we talk next week about Superman 33.
Yeah.
I want to see what Lex saw. And I love the fact that they still are mentioning that connection that Luthor and Grodd have.
Yes.
That's how Lex got in this tournament, was because of the connection with Grodd.
Yep.
I'm glad to see it's still prevalent. It's still there. They didn't throw that away. So I want to see how this one plays out. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Again, the editor notes throughout this have been absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
They're guiding you through this process.
I should have expected him to go to Guy Gardner Warrior. I won't say like I turned the page and I saw this and I was shocked. I was like, oh, that's cool. It was cool to see that. I don't know if you were expecting it. I did not expect the Warrior form to come in at some point in time, especially when he chose Red Lantern. I did not, I don't know what I didn't really have an expectation for what the final fight was going to look like. I just wasn't expecting the page going, it's a foregone conclusion that at some point in time he's going to be Warrior. It made so much sense with where this journey's gone for this to be the form that he ends up taking on. I love when Jay comes on the field because I was thinking that Guy was winning this one. But when I saw him come on the field that way with that particular like lightning spear in his hand, I'm like, oh, Jay might be able to take this. I don't know. I'm thinking, this could be a pretty darn good fight. I loved that I walked into this fight with that sense of this could go either way. And that's how I felt, at least as a reader when I was reading it. That's what it did for me. You might have been in a different place, but that was my journey. And I actually loved the fight so much more because I was so unsure who was going to win this one, whereas I walked in thinking that it was definitely Guy. There was no other way for it to go another direction. I told you with Aquaman that I knew Aquaman was going to win. Even though I love Hawkman, there wasn't a point in time, admittedly, where I thought Hawkman's taking this. This one, I thought there was a possibility Jay was going to take this.
See, now here's me and Guy. My history with Guy is obviously very different than yours.
Mm-hmm.
The Guy as Warrior, I only knew him when he was wearing that one yellow ring. I didn't know this version of Guy Gardner.
Oh, okay.
I just knew the very beginning of the Guy Gardner Warrior. I didn't, and I think that was when we were in college. I remember reading the first issue of that where it was just him. It was all just a giant visual thing. They only had one word and it was next. After he was just, he was testing out the ring in a line of people that he was just beating up. I remember reading that, and I never read beyond really that. It made
this isn't ring based.
Right. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I never got to this point of Guy Gardner Warrior.
Okay.
So when I saw him standing there and he's like, is Warrior, I'm like, oh, must be what he evolved into from what I saw before.
Yeah.
So that for me, so this was kind of a neat thing to see this. So I had no idea, what kind of powers Guy was dealing with here. And so that for me was kind of a neat thing. And then you flip the page and you see Jay showing up ready for battle. I'm like, this is going to be a cool fight. Now, because I didn't know what kind of power levels Guy was going with, I was going to still lead with my idea that Guy was going to win it. But I loved how this fight played out. So I'm going into this thinking Guy's going to win it, but I'm also going into it not knowing exactly what Guy can do. So for me, this was a really neat little just showing him, seeing him, transmute body parts and stuff like that. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. This is a neat Guy Gardner. I'm digging this, So for me, this was a really fun, read because I don't know a lot about Guy Gardner Warrior this level.
I like that Jay is the elder in this one. In the fight, in many ways, he was teaching Guy. Not fully with that intention, but that's kind of where he is at this stage in his career. And I love that when, he was almost at peace with Guy winning, and I love that the conversation's different. And, Guy, do me one favor. No mercy, Garrick. Don't need it. Just beat the tar out of Darkseid for me, will you? You got it, pal. And I loved that KO, that final KO. I love that it was so different. Guy did not let up. He was not about to let up. He knew what's at stake, and this is what he was going to do, and he was following through on it. We go to Central City, and we get go ahead.
One quick question. I want to ask you a question. What do you think? Okay, so we've been talking about people who should get the Omega power to restructure the universe.
No. I'll already answer it. No, actually, he was the one earlier that I was sitting there. Actually, I referenced it earlier. I deliberately didn't mention the name. So I'm actually, thank you for following up on that piece. Do I think Guy Gardner should be King Omega? No. No. I don't think here's the problem. Do I think there's a point in time in Guy's life where if he continues maturing, maybe? Yeah. Right now, I don't want a maybe. Guy is too volatile. There is a good man in there. I actually agree with Jay's assessment of him. So he's an interesting sort of cat where you sit there and go, now, do I want Guy Gardner over the Joker? Yes.
Yes.
There's a scale to this whole thing. And he falls in the spectrum. I certainly would. There's a lot of people I would vote on him over. Yep. But there hits a certain point in time, but then we've got these other 10 people that should win before he does. So, it's an interesting sort of piece. But I loved Jay's assessment where here's a certain part. If you ask Jay Garrick, Jay would say, you guys are selling Guys short. And I think that Jay Garrick at the end of this would argue on Guy's behalf.
Yeah. Now, here's the question. We've got next round, we've got Guy versus Superman. Now, we both always root for Superman, at least I always do. But what if a storyline wise, for a twist that no one will ever see coming, they have Guy win?
Did you watch AEW World's End last night?
No, it's recorded, so don't spoil it, please.
Okay. So I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm going to stay very, very general in what I'm saying right now. There's points in time during World's End where my allegiances shifted.
Nice.
And what happened was, storyline-wise, let's go back to this one so I'm not spoiling anything for you. In this one, I find myself, because of Jay, rooting for Guy. I want Superman to win, but I am very interested in seeing what Guy is like and what that dialogue looks like, what that fight looks like. I could not be more excited for that one. I'm going to be interested to see who I'm rooting for in that one. Like right now, I'm Team Superman to win this whole thing, but I'm also I'm looking for the swerve, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
Could that be the swerve?
That Guy Gardner wins it?
Yeah.
I don't want that. I really don't want that.
No, here's the thing. I don't want that either, just so everyone knows. But it is one of those things that makes me wonder, could that be the swerve? There's got to be a swerve in this.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's the thing. I say I don't want that. Could these writers convince me otherwise? I'll use my example from AEW last night. Yeah.
Yep.
Apparently. Because there was some few things that happened last night where I was cheering for people I didn't think I would be. And I feel like this could have some potential for that. It's Soups. I have trouble rooting against Soups.
I know, me too.
In pretty much anything, so we'll see. Anyway, flipping back to Central City, we got Iris West for the first time encountering a Wally West she does not know yet.
Yeah.
She doesn't recognize that this is that Wally, and she certainly is not going to know who Bart is. So I love that Wally's looking for the place and the person who, no matter what, he knows will keep Bart safe, even though she doesn't recognize this is a member of her family in the future. She wouldn't recognize that yet. But she's just started dating Barry. So Wally's going to go save him. And I love this. I love that they're calling it Impulse Point. Impulse Point continues in Flash number 29. This is really, really a great issue. I could not be more Flash happy right now. One of my favorite books that DC is currently publishing at the moment, and just really, really good stuff. This DC KO has been fantastic. So much of it has been unexpected in its delivery. And that part has been really, really great for me. This could have looked... So the danger when you're doing all these fights is at a certain point in time, is this padding? Or is this legit? Like, do we really need all of this? The answer is yes. I want more of this. I'm not getting like any fatigue from these fights at all. Figure Fight Month, we've done multiple episodes with multiple books where there are all of these fights. I want the next grouping. I want the next round. That's a sign of a well put together event when you're sitting there and genuinely saying, I want to see what the next round brings.
Amen. Amen.
Hole in a donut.
RagingBullets.com is our show website. That feeds into our Facebook fan page. It also feeds into Twitter/X. That's where you can find out news and details about upcoming episodes and as they're being released. We are also proud to be part of two amazing Facebook group communities. The reason why I say two is our legacy community is still up there. But our main Facebook group community is where everyone's posting. And I really appreciate the people that do that. When I say we're proud to be a part of that community, it's their community. They're the people that are posting there. I go there to get my news. I also post all of the episodes there with starting a thread. My intention with that is, you ever got comments about any of our episodes, no matter when you listen to them, there's threads that are up there for pretty much every episode since we've had that Facebook group community. The intention is for you guys to be able to comment, to share your thoughts, correct us. There's times where, or, if we're speculating on a certain thing and you have logic as far as why you think it's differently, throw it out there. Or you have different thoughts on something that we talk about. I love seeing other people's thoughts. We don't always have to agree on all of our thoughts. I enjoy seeing different perspectives. So please consider that to be an outlet for you. If you ever want to write into the show or quote unquote call into the show, ragingbullets@gmail.com has been our email address. Feel free to record an audio comment, send it in to us. Feel free to, and we'll put it on the show. Feel free to send us an email and we'll put it on the show. Reason why I'm referencing that in particular now, we're coming up next week on our 800th episode. And if you're hearing this before that and you have any comments you want to share, please feel free to email them in, whether it's an audio comment or it is an email. I would love to share them on the 800th episode or afterwards. So please feel free to put them on there. We're also coming up to 20 years in podcasting, which is a biggie for us, and that's going to be in March. So all of these things are kind of converging like at once. So I just wanted to shout out the fact that there are ways to reach us. We love having you part of the show. Please feel free to email things in historically. Anything that people have written in email-wise or have done audio comment rise, unless they've said, please don't put this on the air. I've aired them on the podcast because I love hearing from you. So feel free to go ahead and add those things. If you want to be a part of the 800th episode, do that. I'm probably going to start a thread too in the Facebook group, kind of an all call. If anybody wants to send comments that way, you can do it just straight through the Facebook group. But we love having you part of the podcast. The About Us section of our show website is where you can find out details on how to connect with us on gaming platforms and personal social media. You'll also find in all of our podcasts links to Is It Jaws, which is a film review podcast that I do bi-weekly with Paul Spataro. And we do reviews of films with a wide variety of really great guests. Paul was kind enough to invite me on that show, and it's just been really just a great opportunity to hang out with a good friend in Paul, but also all these other amazing people that we get a chance to do film reviews on. So if you're a film fan, please join us. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Is It Jaws as well. Sponsored as always by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
We have new history of the DC Universe, the Dakota Incident, 38% off, only $371. We have Sirens, Love Hurts Limited Series, issue 1 of 4, 48% off, only $311. And we have End of Life, issue number 1, 48% off, only $207. Thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com. I mentioned this one. It's near and dear to my heart. Mike Grell, my first work that I got involved with Mike Grell was his Green Arrow run. So the stuff he did with Longbow Hunters, that was really where I just noticed him and had not known about the Warlord stuff. After I became a huge fan of his with that, I started reading The Warlord. Love this book. Love the character. The artwork's amazing. This is The Warlord by Mike Grell Omnibus hardcover. This is remastered. The colors are remastered. It is just breathtaking when you get to see these remastered versions of books. They did this with Neil Adams, and it was absolutely stunning. This is 736 pages, $100 regularly, 48% off, only $52. Do yourself a favor. This is the way to check out Warlord if you never have. So do yourself a favor and check out this work. It's really, really great work and gorgeous artwork from DC Comics. Our next episode, Jim and I are going to be back, and it's our 800th episode. Now, it's kind of interesting on this one because we're going to be doing Superman number 33, DC KO Red Hood versus Joker, and Justice League Unlimited number 14. We're not doing that in a lazy sense. The reason why we didn't do why didn't we do a special episode? We're going to talk, 800 episodes of the show and all of that. Jim and I are going to have conversation about that as well on this episode. But if you were to ask me, what story do you want to talk about for your 800 episode? Red Hood versus the Joker, that's a bucket list for me. I love seeing those two cats fight. So for me, I'm like, I didn't plan it this way. It just turned out. It's almost like fate. Well, it's because as we were looking through the schedule of the episodes, I literally messaged Jim and I said, do you know what would technically, if we just kept going, what would land on 800? I said, DCKO Red Hood versus Joker just lands there. It's almost like fate said, you guys should talk about this on your 800th episode. I want to talk Red Hood versus the Joker next week. I'm so stoked and excited to talk about that. I can't think of what better to do for your 800th episode than say, what do you really want to talk about for that episode? I want to talk about Red Hood versus the Joker. So that's why we're doing that. It's just kind of organically where I'm emotionally at right now. I want to talk about that. I think that's the great thing about this event. But oh my gosh, dude, could we have planned this? I did not plan this. It just happened.
This is perfect, dude. I'll tell you, and I've got it queued up right now. I'm being careful not to reread before we talk.
Yeah.
So as soon as we hang up, I'm opening it and I'm reading it.
Wait, all three books. I'm so psyched to read them. That's been the cool thing. So that's the reasoning behind that. Everyone's like, oh, you guys aren't doing something special for that? We got to also remember we got a 20th anniversary episode coming up in March, which we're going to do something unique for that. I don't know. I've got a few ideas. I don't know what that looks like yet. A lot of that is going to be what is going on with the DC universe at the time. We have some big things happening. DCKO is wrapping up in March. I'm assuming we're going to have a lot of things we want to talk about in the DC universe with that as well. So that may drive some of the thinking for what the even 20th anniversary looks like for the podcast. But this is a great time. I mean, I love that we're 20 years into this show. And what do I most want to talk about on our 800th episode? The book that is naturally next on our list. So, like, that's fun. How cool is that? Which normally isn't the case. Normally I want to do something for the anniversary show that's different. We will do. There's some unique books that we want to talk about. One of the things that's coming up in 2026 is we're going to do the classic series Legends and all the crossovers. And we're going to have Ken Nabby join us again, and we're going to be doing that. So there are special episodes that are coming up that are going to be covering classic work. We have those in the works. That omnibus that's coming out, that DC Legends one, we're actually going to be doing all of the books that are in there. So there's a lot of different ways to get that. You can get that very easily digitally if you're doing the DC app. But it's great timing with that omnibus coming out. So I would like to wait until that omnibus is released before we start doing that. Obviously, it's also better for us, too, if we do that after DCKO is done, just because of how many DCKO episodes we're doing, just to make sure we can do Legends and kind of tackle it similar to how we're doing DCKO, I think. Anyway, I am very excited to talk to all of you and to you, Jim, next week for our 800th episode. So we will see you then.
Bye.
All right, you guys. Are you ready to sing your song?
I'd say we are. Yeah, let's sing it now.
Okay, this should be fun. Now get ready for your cue. Okay, Sean?
Okay.
Okay, Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Raging Bullets time is here. We talk about what we hold dear. Comic books and TV shows. Superheroes and their clothes. Justice League and so much more. I just love Green Lantern Corps. We talk about the books we've read with spoilers straight ahead.
Okay, fellas, get ready. That was very good, Sean.
Naturally.
Jim, you're a little flat there, so be careful. Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Justice League and so much more. I still love Green Lantern Corps. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show.
Excellent job, guys.
Let's sing it again. Yeah, let's sing it again.
No, that's enough. Let's not push it.
Push it. What is that? Yeah, what are you talking about?
No, I didn't mean anything by that.
I think
Sean,
it's right
Jim,
there.
how long do you want the song to go?
Look, it's